Evening, Council. Very pleased to be here with the new council and staff and guests in the audience as well. So with that, I'll make the introductions. We have Councillor Abbott here this evening, Mr. Broughton, Barmier, and Reuter present. We also have staff members, Peter DeJong, Pam Rook, Shauna, and Haley present. So with that, we've got a quorum. I'll call the meeting to order. I'll act as chair and as recording secretary. Peter, do we have a recording secretary here, or should we make Marcus recorder again?
No, I'll take the minutes. And we've got it recorded cloud, so
Okay.
you can check it afterwards against that.
Okay, perfect. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Everyone has an agenda. Okay, the second item on the agenda is a closed meeting. We're either going to have to ask the audience to leave. What do you suggest, Peter, on this? This was something that was, well, I would have preferred to have it as an open meeting, as we've talked about, open, transparent government, but the agenda has been drawn up as a closed meeting as number 2. So what would you suggest, Peter?
Well, my suggestion would be along the lines of what Councillor Barmeyer suggested, and that is to move this item number 2 to be heard after the other items. So after item 6D, that way respects the fact that there's people here that have come to listen to the discussion, and those online as well.
I think we talked about that earlier about moving it.
Yeah, can I just ask a question on that, Peter? Does whatever we're going to discuss in closed not affect any of the other items, 6A through D? And I thought 6A potentially.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think that the comments that Pam and I have with respect to the other items in the open agenda don't or shouldn't require us to have those discussions in closed. Is that what you mean?
No, I'm suggesting, are we able to discuss and vote on 6A without hearing what you are planning to say in closed? Are they unconnected?
Yes, I would say that they're not connected.
Okay, fine.
Marcus, anything that you'd like to comment on this?
No, that's fine.
Michael?
I prefer to go with the closed portion for a limited period of time. I know that's really inconvenient, but in terms, I don't know what will come up in closed, so I don't know whether it's significant to move it to the end or not. But I defer to the wisdom of the group. But my thinking was that we could assure the audience that we would return in a specific period of time. If we weren't able to resolve the issue in 10 or 15 minutes, then we would defer to later in the meeting. But that would be my
All right, Norm, any comments?
Yeah, I think as a courtesy to the audience, we should.
I'm very cognizant of that.
All right, I'll just comment again. I was against having a closed session. I wanted an open portion to this item. But if the council's in favor of pushing this out to item number 6, as suggested, do we have a motion?
So just before you do that, there's a couple of other things. One is the fact that we don't have a separate Zoom link for closed. So anyone who's online makes it rather problematic in terms of discussing in the closed meeting. Mind you, everybody's here, so there's no councillors.
Okay, thanks.
The other aspect is that there is an amendment to the reasons for closing, and that is section 92D, as in Donald, which is the section that stipulates that you must close the meeting if required under another enactment, and that is applicable here.
Okay, I guess we have differences of opinion, because I think
What would the other enactment be?
It should be the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
okay, that would have been in the future if we could be advised of that in advance. I think I distributed the agenda on a day earlier, asked for any comments, nothing came back, and then we were ready to run with it. So that would allow us to get a proper counsel on whether we go into a closed session or not. But thank you very much. Do we have a motion then? We had a motion to defer this to item 6.
That's correct.
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Okay, motion carried. Oh, sorry.
I'm opposed because of the reasons given and the, so, but. it's fine.
Okay. So taken. All right, so the next item on the agenda, reporting out closed portion, okay, adoption of the agenda. Is there any other items that we'd like to add to this agenda before we adopt this?
Do we want to mention the on table correspondence in the agenda? Or?
Yeah, I understand that there's been a number of pieces of correspondence that were sent to council. I haven't really had much of a chance to read through them other than sitting in the traffic jam. But is that something that you would like to
We talked about speaking to them on the 15th, or we can table them now, whatever makes sense.
Yeah,
They've been submitted today. Why don't we table them?
yeah, they relate to the agenda, so I think
Yeah.
we need to
Okay,
recognize that they're part of the agenda.
all right. Okay, public participation. That portion, it's outlined here is 2 minutes. Personally, I think I don't think we'll hold people to 2 minutes. We'll give them a little bit more fulsome opportunity. Of course, if you do ramble on, we reserve the right to ask you to summarize it. So, okay, with that, we'll open it up. Peter, did we want to go online, or why don't we start with the gallery here? So anyone in the gallery would like to stand up and make some comments?
Sure, I will.
Okay,
Do I speak from here?
yeah, why don't you go up to the podium and just give us your name and
Okay. The nice thing about wearing readers is as soon as I do this, you guys all disappear. My name is Mary Brown, and I'm here with Leslie Nolan, and we're here on behalf of Lions Bay Emergency Support Services. And I will now call that ESS. Okay, for the acronym. To address the topic of the $220,000 grant from TransLink and the $69K from the village of Lions Bay that the previous council approved to be used to improve access to transportation hubs within the village. Specifically, Leslie and I'd like to address the Kelvin Grove Trail Rejuvenation Project. From an ESS standpoint, rejuvenation of this trail is crucial for 4 reasons. Number 1, if the trail is paved, flattened, and widened a bit, it could provide a much needed corridor to access from Kelvin Groves to Central Lions Bay. In emergency management, redundancy is key to a successful outcome. Having said that, redundancy, I mean more than one way to get to the same outcome. Presently, there are 3 ways to traverse between Kelvin Grove and Central Lions Bay. One is the highway, which I think we can agree tonight being a good example is iffy at times. Rail lines, but only by permission of CN, and water if you have a vessel. Number 2 reason why from an ESS standpoint, this is an important thing. If the trail was to be paved, flattened somewhat and widened to accommodate a 4x4 vehicle like the works yard has, I know it as a mule or the cart that the gardening works yard lady used. The trail could be used to move ESS supplies and people from the works yard to Central Lions Bay should the highway become inaccessible in some sort of a disaster or emergency. You may or may not know that in the works yard, there are probably 30 pallets of ESS equipment that are presently being stored in a seismically extremely challenged building that's up on shelves that are also not even bolted to the building that would come down anyway. In the event that the highway is inaccessible, BC Hydro could also use this trail to access the substation to restore power to the village. And I'm not talking about taking a truck down, but taking a little 4x4 down. There is currently only one way to get a vehicle into and out of the substation and the works yard. Number 4, it would improve accessibility for residents with mobility issues. The trail is presently very steep, it's gravelly, it's rugged, especially in this kind of weather, with a damaged split rail fence between the walkers and a very precipitous drop. Improvement would allow more people to enjoy the trail safely. It could also be added to our list of trails in our village evacuation plan. And just rattling around in my brain, I wonder, in its current state, is the trail a liability risk for the village? I'll sum up by saying to relegate the improvement of this trail as simply a spiffed up dog walking trail is both narrow and short-sighted point of view. Think of what improvements to the trails would do in terms of VSS needs. You would get movements and movement of people, movement of supplies, and movement of expertise. It's not just a dog walking trail, nor should it be. The civil engineering firm Crucis, thank you, was employed in July to do the preliminary design work. The report should be in the hands of the village staff by now. It was the previous council's intention to bring this information to the public in late August, early September. It's now November. Can we really afford to stall this project 3 more months? Can we really afford to quash it altogether? I think it's time to think of the positive return to the villagers in terms of emergency preparedness, safety, and accessibility that a small monetary input by the village could create for a very long time. To bring the preliminary design work to the public for their input is something that I think that we should do immediately. Quit stalling. Safety never takes a vacation. It's time. Let's bring it to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks very much.
Anyone else like to say a few words?
So I put my name on the list. I've just got something very brief, succinct to say. We went through a process to have the village considered rural rather than urban, as you all know. It was a resounding affirmation by the citizens and the residents that they would like to be considered rural. My only ask is that council consider that when they're making all their decisions regarding their priorities. I expected tonight we'd be talking a little bit about priorities, and I know you will. So without going into that, I think our rural character should be one of the considerations taken into account when council makes any decisions regarding any of their priorities, including the playground and the trail. I'm sure it will come into conflict with the trail, but there may be some issues with regard to how the playground is developed. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anyone else in the gallery?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thanks for the opportunity to address you, and a big congratulations to the newly elected Mayor and Council and those that are returning. I want to speak today to item 6C, the beach park. I think there's a couple things I just want to mention regarding the park. I think there's a huge amount of support out there for the redevelopment of the park. There's a lot of young families in here. There's a lot of history in that park of kids and families over the years playing there, and that's not changing. It's a place where everybody loves to go down to in the summertime or even in the shoulder seasons and hang out. What I do think though, and what I'm happy to see in the resolution here, is that there is going to be an opportunity for public consultation. I think that did happen early on in the project, but it's been some time now since the kind of the vision for what is actually going to come to fruition has been presented to the public, and I think that's a really important step. I think along with that opportunity for the public to hear that, I think there should also be an opportunity for input. I know there's been iterations of the park and you know, it's been delays as a result of not getting grants, but now we're in a great position to now move ahead on it. But I really think that if you consider this park is going to be like a gem of our community for the next 50 or 60 years, it's important that we get it right now, especially considering we do have a sizable grant at our disposal to spend on it. The part of the resolution that I'm a little concerned about, and I think you probably will hear from other residents that they're concerned as well, is the 90-day delay. I think the previous council, by not moving ahead with purchasing the prefab washrooms, if I'm not mistaken, that was sort of the opportunity to put things on pause to allow a moment of consideration with the new mayor and council in place now. So when when it comes time to consider that resolution, you might find that you might just de-escalate concerns out there in the public by removing that aspect. The December 1st public meeting is gonna create a little bit of a space and an opportunity for all of you to be briefed on where things are at and get caught up to speed. And then for the public to come to that meeting and really hear a fulsome report on what's being planned and an opportunity input. But that 90-day delay, if after that meeting there's a consensus and we can move ahead, then there's no reason to delay after that, and that's basically a month from now. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I do appreciate the opportunity and look forward to a great park down there for many years to come. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Ryan. Any comments?
Just point of, the motion, I believe, says up to 90 days. So I think and the second part of the motion does talk about the December the 1st meeting. So my hope is that the portfolios will be resolved very shortly, and that once we have people specifically responsible, that we'll be able to move ahead very quickly. I think there's a lot of energy. I'm very excited to see things move ahead. And I know that a lot of people have approached me and I'm very excited to move ahead. So, good.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments? No. Okay, I'll just add the same. I think it says up to 90 days. The current council, really the last council in place passed a motion. I think Norm led that to hit the pause button. So they hit the pause button. We've been on the job 3 days. We are very much in favor of getting that part done. I think all of us that have children and kids have been looking forward to better facilities there and improve. So, but it is a consultation, and I looked in even the last notes from October, and there were comments about a town hall meeting. So that's why we put a town hall meeting in as C2. So we're very much in favor of listening to the residents and moving forward with this project as quick as possible. Okay, anyone else like to say?
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I think everyone wants to feed off everyone's discussions, but we're having this discussion later.
Yeah.
I think the residents.
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
didn't start. My norm was about you all wanted to start the discussion now, right?
Point taken.
Talk at all.
Yeah, very, very good. All right.
Apologies for looking like a midget after you said this guy over here. Congratulations, everyone. My name is Jason Doran. We've been here about 2.5 years. I want to echo what Ryan was saying, but I also just wanted to add that, we definitely appreciate the time to have public consultation. My fear with timelines and things being dragged on is, with the rate of inflation and everything going up and up and up, and the cost of doing things, I just worry that more delays is going to make that money go a lot less further than it will if we, get to it. I know there's also a lot of talk from the naysayers about, oh, well, we just need to do a couple of fix-ups here and fix-ups there, and we just need this and we just need that. And I think there's a gross misunderstanding of how much that stuff will cost. I think if we dig into it, the cost of just those things will easily amount to what our portion of accepting this grant would be. And I just wanted to make sure that that was expressed, and that's about it. We're really, really excited for it. We don't want our kids to be 15 before the park is done.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you for those comments. Appreciate that. Any others?
Yeah, I'm just gonna make one comment. I wasn't gonna say anything about the beach park, but I'm going to. I'm a former pediatric nurse and a former emergency room nurse. And if there was one thing I remember from my emerge days is that the accidents that happened to children were because adults didn't act. And so when I think of our beach park and the boards that are rotten and the stairs that we fall through and the kayaks that, you know, the wood, I just think this is a decision that adults need to make for children. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments?
Sure. Going third makes things a little easier for me. Adam Sol, I guess fourth, sorry, I really apologize. Adam Solheim, thanks Ryan and Jason. Also want to thank the new council and returning members as well as the new mayor. I know you ran on a platform of public consultation and appreciate that. Just back to what Ryan was saying, my biggest concern, and I don't know a lot about this, is around timelines around the grant. So as long as we're able to take the time to do the consultation, still meet our commitments so that we can ensure we can get that grant. I don't want to see these schedules delayed. Just from a background of project management and engineering, always high on my list of things that got to make sure we're on top of. So as long as council's taking that into consideration when they're looking at these considerations, no issues there.
All right, thank you. I asked that same question, the timeline, just to make sure. Apparently it's 2026 that the grant runs out. But we are in, personally, I think everyone wants to see this move forward. So, but I was worried that same point. Anyone else would like to ask some questions? Any online? I don't see any hands raised.
There's one there. There's a thumb up anyways.
Oh.
Thumb up. There.
That's a good thing.
Go Beach Park.
Yeah.
I think lots of great comments. That's good. And enthusiasm. Okay. No.
Sorry, I was lifting hand asking if I can speak.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, we missed that, yeah.
It's not thumbs up, it's the hand up.
Okay.
Just so Norman understands. This is how we can voice our interest. Thank you and good evening. My name is Shretsky. First of all, I would like to ask when at the meeting people from the residents park stand up and speak, they should introduce themselves, please. We all know here just about everybody, but not exactly. Despite being 40 years in a village, I still wish to meet more. So I'm appreciate if individuals speaking introduce themselves, please. Second, I want to make a point in reference to artificial rush for a project at the beach. Project was delayed for 5 years or 6 years altogether, especially last 2 years grossly, and requires some public consultation. Yes, it would be great to get to work very soon, but I think 1 month or even more is not much of a delay under condition. Last delays were probably caused by absence of village management working at the village, perhaps return of the village management to position of office work would assist us to speed up the process and consult with the public. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that.
Carmen,
Any other?
there's a hand up for Carmen Leeson.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to echo, my name's Carmen Leeson. Want to echo the sentiments of the few of the gallery there in regards to the beach park. Again, I've said this before to the last council, and those of you that were serving also heard. It's about a balanced perspective. We know from the community, everybody wants input. Everybody has their point of view. But to a couple of words that Ryan had mentioned, again, it's about, for my support for the beach park is, you know, a consultation needs to be there. Everybody knows that they're looking to you as a team to be fiscally responsible, We don't want to lose out on grant applications. We know that. That's a no-brainer to me. But again, it's people do need to be heard. And I think that's going to do a lot for the village, a lot for you as a new council, just to keep that perspective open, and we'll make the right decisions. So again, thank you very much. It's interesting to see all of you work together because it's a new relationship. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Carmen. Any other guests, Peter?
Any other hands?
Okay. All right, we'll move on to item 6A, staff hiring freeze. Do we have a resolution on this discussion? Or sorry, can I call for a motion on this?
I would move.
Okay. Second.
What is the resolution?
Oh, sorry, we're just going to call for a resolution.
So 6A, I would move that we invoke an immediate staff hiring freeze, including no replacement staff, to focus on our existing team for an initial interim period of 6 months.
All right,
Well, I would move that.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, or would we like to have why don't we have a discussion on this first?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay, Michael, we move the motion. Would you like to go first?
Well, I think this is something that was very clearly presented in the election, and that there was support for this with the I think a completely consistent message to the community was one of financial prudence. So we were trying to look at all the costs within the village and a perception of amount of staffing and staff allocations and so on. So we're just seeking to freeze the staffing until we understand the staffing, utilization of staffing, and proceed from there. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Norm?
Yeah, I have a few questions, I guess. I'd like to suggest that we get a staff report outlining the org chart and individuals' responsibilities. So what folks are actually doing in the office, their roles and responsibilities. I guess I'd like to understand the practical limitations staff would face if we don't replace the vacancy of the municipal coordinator. That's a pretty critical role. So I just want to understand what that would mean in practical terms for the balance of staff. I'd like to understand who on staff would then fill those obligations and what work they can't do because they'd be taking on the role of the municipal coordinator. I'd like to understand what work may not get done and the knock-on effects of keeping a municipal coordinator position vacant. And I guess my question to Peter and staff would be, are we interfering with your ability to perform your duties if we don't fill that position? So I understand there's a series of questions in there, but I do think we should consider those.
Okay. Neville?
Similar to what Norm just said, I'm a little concerned with the way it's written and what that might mean. I, as you pointed out, one of us said things on our platform. One of mine was to review staffing positions, which is where Norm was going. So I think we do need that report. We need to understand that to make those decisions. I'm not sure we need 6 months to do that. I think we could do that in a lot less than 6 months. And if the position is genuinely as needed as we've been told in the past, well, then we need to do it faster than 6 months. So I would like to make a friendly amendment, and I've got Christmas coming up, that we get this done in January, if you want to describe that as 3 months, and then it doesn't drag on for longer.
Okay.
I would concur with that. And I think getting a report, and I assume that could be something that we could see fairly soon, would give us a little more information on this. But I would also like to state that I would support the idea that there's nothing further done with staffing, restaffing or filling positions until we've had a moment to consider that, discuss it and view a report. That would seem to be reasonable to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got an amendment to the motion for an interim period of 3 months. So invoke an immediate staff hiring freeze, including no replacement staff, to focus on our existing team for initial interim period of 3 months.
Okay, I would accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, do we have a second?
Sorry, do you want to add something on to that about us getting a staff, in time for us to get a staff report to review?
Yeah, that's a good point. So we'll have I guess we'll await a staff report.
Yeah.
For us to review and, okay. So we'll invoke an immediate staff hiring freeze, including replacement staff, to focus on our existing team for initial period of 3 months, pending a staff report or review.
I'm good with
Okay.
that. Thank you.
All in favor?
We had a question first.
Kind of need to hear from staff on this, I think, as a team before you
Yeah, go ahead.
consider
Go ahead.
voting on
Yeah,
it.
by all means, go ahead.
I know that Pam has some notes that she's prepared to.
Actually, I think they're similar to yours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I understand, you know, you're wanting to understand what our capacity is and who does what, and to just pause and see what that looks like. And understand whether there's efficiencies to be gained and that kind of thing. That's perfectly understandable for a new council coming in. However, I would like to point out a couple of things. I know that this was something that had its genesis in the course of the election, and I'd like to point out that at the time that this came forward as a platform of some people, that we had a municipal coordinator, we had a body in that position. It was no indication that that person was leaving. So if you're talking about a hiring freeze, at the time that it was formulated, that the concept came to be, we had somebody in that position. And I'd like to also point out that it is a vital position. It's the only person who we have in the Legislative Services Department. That person is the Legislative Services Department. So there isn't other people to do that work. Things will fall through the cracks, and you know, I certainly can't pick up the slack of a full-time permanent employee. I'm already doing hundreds of hours of unpaid overtime every year. So it's something that's going to be very problematic very, very quickly. The notion of a hiring freeze, in my experience, generally refers to the concept of not creating new positions. So, for instance, we could probably really use a planner. Most places have a planner. Planners add a lot of value to municipality. Even small ones like Anmore have a couple of planners. Bowen has a planner or two. And it's something that we sadly lacked. We tried to find a planner a little while back. I think it was in 2018. But we couldn't really find anybody that fit the bill at that time. So I think it's important to think about a hiring freeze from the perspective of no new positions, as opposed to not replacing existing positions of permanent full-time employees who happen to leave and who we really need to replace. You know, if you carry that all the way through, you know, and invoke a 3-month period of a hiring freeze, including no replacements. Well, I can tell you right now, we've got a fire chief who has resigned. So I guess we're not replacing the fire chief. That's the first thing. Second thing, you know, we've got a building inspector who might decide that he's ready to retire. If he does so, we're not going to replace him. We've got a lot of people with building permits. We've got a lot of people who want to take out building permits for renovations and new builds. All those people are going to be SOL. They won't be able to do anything. I can't sign a building permit. I'm not qualified to do so under the Building Act. So that's another possibility. If any other key staff whether it's the CFO or the public works manager were to leave and go to greener pastures. We're not going to hire somebody to replace that person. You're kind of boxing yourself into a corner based on a concept that came up during an election campaign. And these things happen. They come up all the time in election
Peter, I
campaigns.
was just gonna ask you to summarize. I think we're
Okay, I think
reviewing the election.
Yeah, I think you've got my point that
Okay.
the hiring freeze should really
Yeah.
be about positions, not people. And about the fact that, we've got some key people who we need to replace now, including the municipal coordinator and the fire chief, and others that, could come along. So
Okay,
I think it's
Thank you for those
keep
comments.
these things in mind when you're thinking about this.
thank you. Pam, anything that you would like to
No,
add?
I would just agree that I think, it was my interpretation of a hiring freeze to no new hires. And then we had the unfortunate, we lost a very valuable employee. It's an exempt position. There is no one else can do it. So again, that work will flow upward to management who already worked last year 1,600 hours of cumulative overtime unpaid. And we're pretty much at our limit. So I think it was bad timing. We lost our fire chief, we lost a key position. I have no objections to a hiring freeze, but my definition of that would be no new hires. That we really need to replace critical staff that have left.
Okay,
So what do we do with that?
Can I just clarify? So we currently do have an acting fire chief.
we did, I talked to the replacement actually.
But we have,
He's standing in for Andrew, yes.
we have a deputy
Deputy,
who's
yeah,
deputy fire chief,
deputy.
being deputy
Not an
is currently acting.
Would a reasonable way forward be to say, let's see a report on staffing as was suggested, and if there is further attrition, then we would have to meet that and discuss it at that time, as opposed to and deal with it at that moment if it occurs, and we can amend our direction on
Right.
as events warrant.
So I think that pending report from staff, that will cover that area probably, or additional information.
Yeah.
And if we've called a meeting here within days, if we have a situation that arises, I don't see an issue with getting together, in a short notice. I don't have a problem with that. We've talked about amending this up to 3 months, and then we've got a report that staff is going to supply us with. And if something comes up in the interim where it's an emergency situation, we call another meeting, get back together here.
We would address it ad hoc as necessary. If there is, Peter, as you suggest, that if people flee to greener pastures, I think, or if there's attrition.
Well, we've also got a fire chief and we've got a municipal coordinator that's vacant right now. So it's not going to take us 3 months to give you a report on the situation. And I would suggest that you shorten this up to like a month or something like that, or the November 15th. I don't know if we can bring it.
All right.
November 15th, but
I think we had an amendment for 3 months. Look, part of the campaign was also one of the platforms, and the reasons we got in was, we had seen an escalation in costs over the last 4 years, and so there was a real message that our constituents sent us. So we got the motion on the table, invoke an immediate staff hiring freeze, including no replacement staff, to focus on our existing team for an initial period of 3 months, pending a report from staff.
Can we make it 3 months or less?
Yeah.
Or less,
Yeah.
up to 3 months,
So
or,
we get the staff in 2 weeks' time and the report, and we're all happy, we can end it.
sure. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. All right, we have a motion on that question.
Yeah.
Okay, second, all in favor? Motion carried. Okay, conflict of interest declaration, call for a resolution. This is a request all non-union management complete a conflict of interest form, which is congruent with the form that is best practices for government employees. This was a suggestion that was put in place, and now Peter, you had a comment on that. Would you before we, well, why don't we get a motion to discuss it first? Okay, second. All right, all in favor? Do we want to hear from Peter first?
It was Norm and Marcus. Did you get those, Peter? Move Norm to second to Marcus.
Yeah, we don't write down who
Oh,
moves and who seconds, we
Okay.
just, that's a fact that has been moved and seconded, yeah.
Okay, I think the intention on this was just full disclosure from all government employees. And speaking with other government agencies, both federally and provincially, all their employees were required to sign disclosures, not unlike what the council and mayor signed, which is basically a disclosure of interest that you have company interest in companies, more than 30%, I think it was. And any other conflicts that may arise. So I think that's what brought about that. Did you have any comments?
Yeah,
Before we
there is no sort of conflict of interest form for local government employees. We're not decision makers. Local government officers do sign the same financial disclosure form as elected officials do. And we do that every year. And you guys have to do it every year as well. It's the same form, but under the Financial Disclosure Act. Additionally, each of our management contracts includes provisions regarding confidentiality and conflict of interest. So as you probably heard today during the Lidstone orientation seminar, that's, you know, your staff is covered off already, and there is generally no other sort of format or requirement for conflict of interest forms.
Is there any way the council can get copies of those? Just to see of whatever you've signed, whatever that might be a declaration. I know I did request a number of things and was fully understanding that until we were sworn in, you couldn't deliver anything. Now that we've been sworn in, will I be able to get those documents, or at least a portion of those? I'll rewrite you another letter tomorrow or whenever that may be. I think that would probably go a long ways. And again, this is about open, transparent government. So as a new mayor and council, we've got a number of requests just so that we can actually move forward and have a better understanding of exactly what's in front of us.
Yeah,
so that would be helpful.
There's lots of things that we can provide you in terms of information that you'd like to see. And I don't think there's any confidentiality or restrictions on production of those financial disclosure statements.
That'd be great if we can see those.
And actually,
Sorry?
do we have to bring the list to the meeting and have a resolution on it? Or I don't think we do.
No, if you've signed them personally, and we'll go around the room.
Which item you want to see? I mean, I'm not familiar with what that list is. So you said there was a number of items that you would want it done.
I've requested a number of items. Yeah.
I think what Pam's getting at is, you know, you act as a council as a whole, and you can, the only way in which you act is through either bylaw or resolution. So I think what she's asking for is a resolution as to
Have to see the list.
what you would like to have produced. I think
Fair enough. There are some, that would have been nice to know that. We could have brought that up and actually added it to the agenda, because that was a very straightforward request. I was looking to get some information so that we could have a better understanding as a council. And if you had said we needed a resolution, I would have actually added it to the agenda. But now that that's understood, we will, at least personally, I will go around and do what we have to get a resolution so that we can actually see documents and have a better understanding as a council and mayor. Now, in terms of this particular declaration, so you've got documents that you can show us. So is that, do we need a council? Do we need to move on this, or what's your feeling?
So just to clarify, Ken, there are a number of things, and Pam hasn't had the luxury of having, gone through your list. But there are.
I actually copied Pam on that email.
Okay, well.
So wait, is there not a motion on the table?
In any event.
There's no motion. I thought we moved and seconded.
Yeah,
I think we did, yeah. So maybe, you know what, that's a good point. Let's discuss this, and the other matter we can move and discuss that another time, the next meeting. Okay,
So we have a.
Any
so let's-
discussion?
Can I clarify the motion on the floor is regarding the conflict of interest declaration? And so we're asked,
So the way the motion reads, request all non-union management complete a conflict of interest form, which is congruent with the form that is best practices for government employees. So that's the motion on the table. We've had some clarification from staff. Really, the next step is that we get to discuss this as a council. We each weigh in. If we have questions, maybe we don't have questions. I have a series of questions. But I'm not gonna go first unless someone wants me to.
go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess I wanted to understand the background of the motivation, but you provided that, Ken, so I understand the motivation for the motion. I wanted to understand from staff if we're out of compliance by not having this consent form signed. Leads to the next logical question, what does this conflict of interest form look like? We don't have it in front of us, so I don't really know exactly what would be on the form. The next question I had was if this was simply a housekeeping exercise, and if there was some other way to address it. And whether this is something we could push out to the regular council meeting of November 15th to allow staff to prepare a very basic report to understand the resolution a bit more and have a more fulsome discussion. So really, my question is, can we just move this to the 15th and maybe get some information from staff?
Okay, you're asking to table it. I think that's reasonable, but perhaps we get a comment from Neville, Marcus.
I think from what we've heard, whatever comes back on the 15th is going to be completely different. I think we can just defeat the motion, to be honest, defeat the resolution, because I don't understand what it means, and I understand even less what we're asking for from what I've heard. So I think we should just, not done, come back with a better form of opinion of what we need when we understand better what staff already do.
Okay, I'm fine. I think we've heard that there is some forms of some sort signed, and if we can get some of those along with other information before the 15th and have a discussion.
On the 15th.
On the 15th.
And if there's a different word resolution, then at least we come to edit with some basis.
Yeah, okay. Michael?
okay, could we deal with this motion, and then I would like to deal with the other situation that was just raised?
Mhm.
Yeah, so could
Okay,
we call
so,
the question on this motion?
okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Okay. perfect.
And we should get a confirmation. Or defeated.
Okay,
With all due respect, Mike.
Wind back the camera on that one.
okay, thank you, okay.
Sorry, Michael.
Okay, I'm sorry, but the gentleman, my counselor friend is asking that we continue with the orders of the day, which is the agenda.
Okay. All right, next item, Lions Bay Beach Park, and the motion, the initial motion, call for motion to place the Lions Bay Beach Park revitalization on hold for up to 90 days to review the project. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that.
A second. Okay, all in favor? Okay,
Could I speak?
yes.
Could I speak to that? Okay. Could I just point out that there's two components to the motion, and one is that that it's up to 90 days, and secondly, that we hold our first town hall meeting on December the 1st to receive community input. And I'd like to highlight that it is up to 90 days, and that there's a real concern that the project not be stalled, and I heard that very clearly this evening. And also, I heard a very strong concern in the community about financial prudence and ensuring that we get best value for any funds that we put into this, into the beach park revitalization. And I think that what the energy that I'm hearing in the community and the excitement that I'm feeling in the community is that we will have we're really seeking excellent outcome based on the money that we put into it. And I believe that there is a huge amount of interest and people looking to really make something fantastic in the beach park within a budget. The letters, I was able to scan these letters there while I was waiting on the highway as well with Peter and different cars. And and the sense that I got from these letters is a real concern that there would be any significant, that there would be delay that would hold back progress on the beach park. But my feeling is that it's critical that we take the time that we need to really understand the beach park. Currently, we have a consultant who has hired a consultant to do work on the park. And when I spoke to the architect, the landscape architect who was working on the park, he was really was a lovely man, and who was really trying to understand our community. And I think that once he receives input from our community, he will really generate great outcome. But there was originally a group, the advisory group, who brought forward a plan which was on the side of the beach house up until April this year. It was taken down just before the volunteer celebration. There was a message sent off in the mayor's May 20th report and the village update, which asked for input, but it was basically an engineering discussion. And then there was a document which was brought to council during the election, which was mailed out to some of the residents. And I don't think people really understood I don't understand what the plan is, what the proposal is, but and which of those, and I think there's a lot of confusion as to what is currently before us. So we're anxious to get started on this as quickly as possible, and but I would like to not have any further funds spent, any further commitments made, any contractual obligations put into place until we fully understand that all of those are going to contribute towards excellence on this park.
All right.
So I would support this motion.
Okay. Norm?
Sure. I made some notes for myself, so I'm gonna just read through these. I guess just in general, I found the resolution required a bit more transparent public exposure. It was quite short notice, 24 hours for a special council meeting. Doesn't really give public enough time to review or even see what we're talking about. So I found that a bit too pushy. So I'd like to suggest we move this item to the 15th, as moved and adopted on the October 14th or 4th regular council meeting. To allow staff to provide a baseline report. With all due respect, Michael, you're painting a narrative of what you think the story was around the beach park. I think a fulsome report from staff that the public can review and understand all of the different bits and pieces that make up the story and the facts behind where we are today would be helpful, and folks can read that on their own time and come to the meeting prepared with questions. So my suggestion would be that we move it to the 15th and allow staff to provide a baseline report. I have a few more comments, sorry. I think it would be prudent to understand the implications of a 90-day delay on scope, schedule, and budget, as well as understanding the impact on the grant and any standing contracts. So that's again part of that staff report that would help inform Michael's concern around additional spending. I can also not reconcile a motion that has a 90-day hold yet calls for a December 1 town hall. The two are conflicting. A December 1 town hall is actually a very aggressive timeline in order for us to be able to provide meaningful public engagement. So preparation of materials, mail outs, whatever we have to do to actually have a meaningful town hall. So the two compete, a 90-day hold and a December 1 town hall. That's not clear direction. So I would really support next steps being meaningful public engagement and aiming towards a December 1st town hall would be a nice goal. I don't know if that's achievable, but I don't think the 90-day hold language doesn't resonate with me.
Okay, just to be clear, so are you proposing an amendment or you just providing comments?
Commentary,
okay. So why don't we go to Marcus and Neville, whichever you. Go ahead.
Keep that last one to the second one.
You go ahead.
Yeah, well, at the risk of restating what's just been said, I was concerned over the language, the word hold, what is that supposed to mean? What are we stopping? Certainly, we should not be stopping public engagement and advancing and developing the concept. That's what we need to keep doing. So my first thought was, did hold me, don't place any more orders. I would be acceptable with, obviously, because we need to first, but we are in a process of trying to develop this concept to a point that it's something that we can all agree on. The last council rather rushedly, just before in the last 2 meetings, agreed to go back and get some more public engagement on this. Which previously we should have done it much earlier. I spoke for 6 months ago, but we left it to the last minute, and unfortunately, we tripped up again with the number of mailboxes the thing went into. You pretty much have to go down there and tell the guy, I'm the government, stick it in that box. Because Pam and I have been doing this on a few episodes, and it happened again. So we now know it didn't go into all the mailboxes. So that was a little frustrating and waste money. So we need to make sure we can get the information as much as we know now to as many people. So the language of hold seems a bit odd, and I do agree. It's in the first town hall. By the way, I think you're going to get far more engagement from a have your say. You draft a good have your say with the right questions. You get far more information back than you get from a town hall. I'm a little concerned the residents are going to say, you keep asking, you've asked me this 3 times. Unfortunately, the third time I only asked half the residents, so they don't know the other half didn't get the question. So we might have to explain that, but I think that's what we should try to do for the 15th. Let's get a more fulsome, have your say, last chance, apologize for the missteps if we need to, or explain them at least, and get some more engagement.
Okay, Marcus?
I would agree with the notion that a town hall isn't sufficient. The have your says that we've had have been very robustly attended, and we've gotten a lot of information on those. And I think that we also, there's obviously a lot of enthusiasm for the project. I think we need to get our head around it. I would like to hear, are there, in terms of a hold, is there any money being spent, any contractual obligations that are being fulfilled right now? Because I think that's where, in part, where the concern is coming from. So, Peter, perhaps you could speak.
Maybe before Peter speaks.
Yeah.
I guess the motion was drafted. It was up to 90 days, and it was hold our first town hall meeting. And I agree that there's a have your say. I think that's a fabulous. But we have had requests for town hall meetings from residents, and that was also part of our platform, or at least mine, and I think some others, was open, transparent communication. So that's what that refers to. And the first was about as early as we could throw a town hall meeting. But I think have your say in a town hall meeting. I think both of those, personally, I think those would be fabulous to draw out. I mean, the idea here is to hear from as many residents and then move forward. Now, the last council, and again, I looked it up here, Norm, you passed the motion. All 4 councillors were in favor of it, and they put a hold on that. You basically, your council put a hold on it a month ago, and now you've moved it.
Right, it was the purchase of the bathroom. That was the specific ask that we put on hold.
Okay.
It was a very specific motion.
Okay, so I guess what this is saying is until this council, we're 3 days into our council now. So, I think the idea behind this was we hit the pause button until we understand this and get the information available to the council members. Because, we don't have the information provided to us. So that, I think that's my point of view, is I'm fine with this up to 90 days, hold the town hall meeting and let's move forward. If we've got everybody on board, I'm game on moving forward. But I think we have to have an understanding of it, and it's no different from the last council. So
I think we might want to discuss whether holding a town hall is fine, but we might want to start with a have your say, and
Sure.
after it's well populated and get the information from that, and then perhaps if necessary, also hold a town hall. I mean, we can do both, but certainly to have your say and.
I think
would be
both.
important. Yeah.
Do we want to amend this motion then, or?
A little bit. I think the amendment that I would like to see is that we have a fulsome report for the 15th that everyone can consider, and so that we have a baseline of where we're at.
Do
Sorry,
we need to wait to the 15th?
So, yeah, that's coming up pretty fast.
I know.
For a week next week, in terms of getting the agenda out and so forth. No,
Peter, what
no municipal coordinator to help do it.
what we're discussing now is what's currently in motion, what's in play. Some of us know what was agreed to in their contract in stage gates, other than vague recollection of them, but what can we reveal now so others understand what's happening?
So what I was going to say, maybe before I lose my thought about the, a report for the 15th, what I would see myself being able to do would be to pull together all the previous reports, ranging from, how bad is the condition of the building and why can't we just repair it, to, the resolutions to proceed with, the path that we've gone down and the plans that have been generated to date and so forth. Now, with respect to those plans, we did ask the landscape architects, PMG, to provide us with better graphics and or pictures of what the proposed prefabricated washroom facility would look like, because I have, similar concerns about, what that looks like. It's one thing to sort of see a swatch of different potential finishes, and it's another to sort of see what it looks like on a building. So I've seen a couple of pictures dribble in. I'm looking for more. I did. So we're hoping to get that pulled together. And I've also asked, and PMG would be available for a town hall on the 1st if you decide to go that route. And what they are pulling together now is, because it wasn't actually part of their contractual responsibilities, is what they would provide us with as a quote for pulling together additional presentation materials for a town hall meeting and to attend at the said meeting. So I haven't.
Could we just have staff?
Yet.
Could we just have staff walk through this town hall meeting?
I think if you want
Provide-
proper public engagement, you have to show like good stuff.
Yeah.
It's gotta be meaningful engagement.
Okay, what if we amend this motion? Place the Lions Bay Beach Park for revitalization on hold for up to 90 days until a sufficient report is produced, and request further have your say and hold a town hall meeting on December 1st to consult with residents. Does that better describe?
Is that achievable?
That's pretty quick.
I think you might want to see the quote before you decide that's the way you want to go. But it's also a very tight timeline if you're going to do a have your say first, and then based on that feedback, have it help to inform the town hall. I'm just not sure.
Okay, so we're having more questions, and it's almost confirming that we hit the pause button until we have the information so this council can understand it. The last council hit the pause button. We've had 3.5 days.
If I could, I think, not speaking for everyone, possibly, but I think we can let residents fears be allayed that we do not intend to go by the washroom that we put on hold in the last council anytime soon until we go through this process. That was the concern of putting on hold. I think, maybe we should word it that way.
Well, the proceeding with a prefabricated washroom, you're looking at a 6 to 7 month timeline from the time you order to delivery. So, you can do the math and figure out how that impacts when it would be up and running. But yeah, we're not procuring anything to do with the park. And the only additional potential cost is is the potential cost or whatever the quote comes back at from PMG to do the town hall presentation materials and attend at it.
Do you have a feel for what that might cost?
Sorry?
Do you have a rough feel for what that might cost?
I think.
Okay, why don't we hit the pause
Probably
button until we
in the
actually
We're
have to
some
talk.
information.
Like, we don't have the information now, we're speculating. Okay, emotions on the table.
Could I just ask one more question? Are there any other contractual obligations or any costs that are coming at us that are already in play?
No, we've already sort of gone through a process of capacity determination with respect to the septic field by the engineers, the sub-consultants of PMG. And so there's probably still additional work to do with respect to the septic field engineering, but we sort of the threshold question answered in terms of what's required in order to accommodate doubling the number of washroom facilities that that we have. So that part has been answered. So there's nothing sort of pending other than what you want to do for presentation for town hall. Everything else is sort of sitting in abeyance.
Okay, so then go ahead, Michael.
Well, I support us going ahead with this motion, and if there's new information that informs our decision on 15th, then that will move up those dates.
Okay.
Right now, we're saying up to 90 days, and so I think as we have more information, we can make those adjustments.
Okay,
And
now
based on accurate information.
something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was trying to get back to a time in the town hall. So when I first started talking about this earlier, I had in my mind, you have a town hall. No, sorry, not town hall. I have your say and drawn and agreed by everyone, drafted and ready to go on the 15th. What I had in my mind. But now we're first looking at a report and then doing a have your say. We are kind of pushing things out of it.
I look, as for the town hall meeting, I think we can throw a town hall meeting, whether we have basic materials to show. It's a discussion. It's something that allows the residents to actually talk about this and say, we want to move forward on this. I'm if there's a big price tag that the consultant has, then heck with it. We'll put our own materials together and we'll walk around. If it's a town hall, walking around down at the park, see what we have to do. I don't have an issue with it. So I think we've got a motion on the table here. What I'm hearing is nothing's happening anyway. So this motion is probably just duplicates that, but nevertheless, it gives us some comfort. We can address this again on the 15th. But I think we either decide that we want this or not. So motion's on the table. All in favor? Opposed?
The way it's written.
I'm opposed to the way it's written.
Yeah.
Okay, would you like to see it amended? Give us an amendment that you would like to see that would satisfy you.
The Lions Bay Beach Park revitalization project continue to be developed, but no further contractual obligations be entered into for up to 90 days.
So continue to be developed. And what does that mean?
Well, yeah, good question. So
does that mean order the
no, so fair enough.
washrooms?
Yeah, that's not necessarily either.
In on the 15th, right?
Yeah, my development. Yeah, my development was more about getting the engagement part of it, to be honest. So let's maybe reword that because that doesn't sound right either. The Lions Bay Beach Park revitalization project engagement with the public continue, but no further contractual obligations be entered into for 90 days. How does that sound?
Yeah, and what about the town hall meeting?
Yeah, we gave. You want to leave the target from December the 1st?
And
I think leave that as
Might be aggressive.
Okay,
as
yeah.
a goal.
All right, that's a good.
If it's not possible, then
Nice
it will not be
amendment.
possible. So yeah.
Okay,
I think we need to then start thinking about what the Have Your Say says and get that going on the 15th.
I'll just read out the language again, Peter, just so we have it right.
What I've got is that the Lions Bay Beach Park project engagement with the public continue to be developed and implemented with the aim of having a town hall on December 1st. That, what I said?
That was at it, and then we did add, but no further contractual obligation entered into the line. Which is the concern that I think you councillors had, but
I think you said nothing is being done, and so that this was to confirm that nothing's moving forward until we get together and have proper consultation.
correct.
You want to read that out again? You don't want to get a chance.
Just and that no further contractual commitments be incurred or commitments or expenses.
Or no contractual commitments be incurred from this point until we,
Yeah, for 90 days.
Be incurred
90
without
days.
further approval of council
Sure.
or something like that.
Yeah, so for the people council, it's fine. Yeah.
Mhm. Is there any commitments that are moving forward that we don't know of? I guess that's
No, it's just the quote for the town hall would be coming back to you on the 15th
okay. And
at the latest. If not, I'll probably circulate it as soon as I get it.
okay,
And we could at that time consider whether that is an appropriate date for a town hall and whether we might want to proceed with a have your say before we engage in a town hall.
I think we can do the have your say beforehand.
Yeah. Or we,
You kind of have to give a date out there for
yeah,
in person.
well, we would be considering that on the 15th then.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
so the having say could go soon after that, you've still got best part of 2 weeks.
Yeah,
for the
okay.
time.
Just core management, Peter, is core is still working on it. The management company,
Yeah, just.
no further contractual obligation, but we've already engaged in a contract, which they're continuing to work on.
Okay, so that's what we were asking, and
So
What do they do?
I guess.
you know, there's work underway right now, and that's, I think, what we have residents asking. Is we should decide what this park is, you know, agree on that. You've got to tell us that there's no work going on from this point. So Pam's telling us there is work going on.
Well, so that role would be in respect of basically contacting PMG and requesting follow-up request in terms of the graphics and pictures and to request what they would charge for doing a presentation at a town hall on December 1st. So other than that, they're not working on it.
Like I was throwing out, there's project management, so,
Right.
and they're already engaged.
They're engaged, but they're not actively.
Yeah.
Pushing the project ahead. They're not designing anything,
They're not constructing, but are they doing other work that's incurring expenditures other than if we ask them to do
But they do.
materials for the
Just-
town hall?
Just what I just explained.
Contract.
That's all.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, are we at this point requesting that this company go ahead with a proposal for a presentation at a town hall event?
I think Peter was getting a quote.
We've asked for a quote.
Okay,
As soon as I get it, I'll just circulate.
okay, so that's the extent of the involvement there.
Yes.
Okay,
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to read that? Motion, and then we can,
So is that the Lions Bay Beach Park engagement with public continue to be developed and implemented? Bracket, have your say. With the aim to have a town hall meeting on December 1st. And that no further contractual commitments or expenses be incurred without council approval.
okay, do we have a
I'll put
motion?
that forward.
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
All right, next item D, Lions Bay Connector Project. And this motion was to place the Lions Bay Connector on hold for up to 90 days to review the project. We have a motion to discuss this.
I would.
Okay, sure. Second.
Yep.
Okay,
Could I speak to it?
yes,
Okay, thank you very much, Mary Brown, for your presentation on this. In the last 2 months, I have not been able to get any information on the Lions Bay Connector. I've learned more about what I understood, about it from you this evening than I've been able to discern from any other source at this point in time. So I think it's really important that we understand what the proposal is. Clearly, the evacuation plan is really important, and the emergency programs. Well, you are the emergency ESS people, so I really appreciate all the work that you're doing there. So, but there's also the pathway, the trailways of evacuation plan. Again, I don't understand all the intricacies at this point, but I think it's really important that we understand what the Lions Bay connector is, that we're able to share that information with the community. Right now, there was $12,000 authorized to be spent on it at October 4th meeting, I believe, or maybe a little bit earlier than that. And I'm not clear what that expenditure is, except that we've been seeing surveyors on Lions Bay Avenue as recently as today. So my suggestion is, well, I'm supporting this motion, that we put it on hold until we understand what it is and are able to share that with the community. The fact that it's a 25% cost to the village, 75% to TransLink. However, any overages, if it runs over budget, the community is responsible for that. So potentially our exposures could be more than 25%, depending on the project itself. So I would support this motion so that we can understand and inform the community as to what it is, so that we can consult with the community whether it's something they want to proceed with.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Michael.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, the project is essentially on hold. The consulting engineers were requested to provide the plans and the drawings that they have prepared so that we can bring a report to the November 15th regular council meeting, and council can determine how it wishes to proceed regarding consultations with the general public. That's the aim here. So I wasn't aware that they hadn't finished their survey stuff. I thought that had been done previously. So I was surprised to hear that.
Okay.
That's the objective here. It's to bring it forward, and so you can see what it is, see what you want to do with it, and go from there.
All right, Norm, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, it was similar to the previous motion, but I guess I was curious if in order to economize on the effort to pull together a town hall, it would make sense to try and bring information to that town hall for this connector, if it's possible, like time-wise. And it's a lot of effort to get that organized, so I might as well present more information if we have it. But that's just a comment, if that's feasible.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't see any urgency to this project.
Do you mean like a double town hall?
Well,
Or two?
Exhibit A, Exhibit B.
There you go. Well,
All right,
more to look at. More to
I
talk
like
about.
that. I like that.
That's cool.
Marcus?
Yeah, if it's already on hold, then we will be getting a report on the 15th where we can then consider this. And then I suppose we could make a decision at that time whether it's something that we would, as Norm suggests, want to include in an Exhibit B if we're going to be having a half-year say or a town hall event on the Beach Park project.
Okay.
Something to consider at that time. Yeah.
Neville?
A couple of comments. Thanks, Mary and Leslie, for that idea, because not one I'd heard before, and we never discussed the emergency planning program committee either. So yeah, maybe it was something I should have thought about then, and we should have that meeting. So I don't know if anyone understands the difference between ESS and the emergency program committee is a committee which over all the emergency service, fire, search and rescue, ESS. And I've been on that committee. So it was interesting thought, and we hadn't heard about it before. I also, we haven't, the existing council doesn't know a whole lot more about the project's going to be looking like, to be honest. The concept of paved and wide enough for an ATV or a small vehicle, I no knowledge of that either. So if that is where the plans are going and how they're developed, then yeah, we should see them on the 15th and decide what this project's about. It seemed like it might really morph into something else.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Mary. That as Michael said, that's the most I've learned about this project. I had asked counselors during the election term and I could not get an answer about what this was about. Even it was the lack of information was concerning, and that's why it was in my platform. And when I talked to residents, this wasn't a priority for them. The reason this motion came up was, I think Peter's just mentioned, work's been underway here that he didn't realize. Now we've got information coming to us. So I think as a new council, at least personally, I think we want to evaluate this before we see anything else spent on this. And I love the idea, Norm, of the town hall meeting. And I would push for putting it in there on the first if we could, and as big or as small. I think that'd be great. Gives residents a little bit more information. So, okay. What would make me feel comfortable is moving forward on the resolution, but with the amendment that we add it to the town hall. If we can, or if not, I think we add it to the next town hall if need be.
I'd accept that as a friendly amendment. Can we add that it be with the town hall if as feasible?
Mhm.
Is that reasonable, Peter?
I was just gonna say, perhaps just a simple amendment that you add and that staff report come forward to November 15th meeting, and then you take it from there. That's what you want to do. Whether we can organize it. By that point,
Why don't we have
a better sense of what it is?
Whether we can.
Why don't we say a acceptable staff report for 90 days? So then that way the report comes forward, we review it, we're happy, let's move. And I think we do what we can to get it in that town hall meeting.
Well, you've got the up to, so I think you're covered.
Okay, so we'll keep it in there.
Okay.
Michael.
I'm wondering if I heard some concern about a list of requests that you had made. And the CAO has indicated that he would like a resolution to support the list of.
Before we go on that,
Yes.
let's vote on this resolution. Sorry, and then we can, I don't know, anyway, let's vote on this and then we'll attend to that. Okay, all in favor? We had a motion.
Is it amended?
What is it amended? The amended.
So I've got place lines bay connector, should say project. On hold for up to 90 days to review the project with a staff report to come to the November 15th meeting.
Okay, I mean, I hope you can get it there the 15th. That'd be great. You've got a couple other reports to produce. So if it doesn't, then the 90 days is out there. So, and we're going to try to include this in the town hall meeting. Why don't we put that in there? Subject to it being feasible, we'll do what we can to get it in there.
Okay, with aim to have town hall December 1st.
Okay, all in favor? Motion carried. Now, that was a letter request, and basically it was for information to allow all us councillors, especially the new council members, to get up to speed.
So
I'll just recraft the letter. I don't know if we need.
This method arising now.
Yeah,
So I was going to say that, there are some things that are straightforward, no problem just providing them. There are some things that you should probably have a resolution to provide. There might be some things that are of confidential nature that you have to perhaps have a discussion and closed meeting about. I don't remember offhand the full extent, but there was a variety of different things. So
I don't think we need to attend to it right now. I'll just craft another letter and we'll go from there. Good point. We'll move to the next point. Okay. We've got the public questions and comments. Why don't we do that? Or we move into the closed meeting?
Would we need to re-amend the agenda? Because I think we had moved 2 to after 6D formally, or?
Yeah, you're right. We did move it to after 6. So we're okay. We'll go into the closed meeting then. I think we're at that point.
No.
Question would be, do we want to do public?
Could we do
Public participation now and then go to closed? That way folks don't have to wait around or come back.
Yeah.
It's a question.
Well, they're gonna have to leave anyway, so yeah. Any other questions in the gallery?
Just one, because it says you're gonna report out from the closed portion, so I don't know if you want us to have any comments on that, but if you don't expect anything, it doesn't matter.
We will be reporting out we don't know what to expect, but
That would be the only reason we go with our comment.
yeah,
Not saying I want to stay.
okay. You know what? We'll go into close, and if anyone's around wants to come back in, fabulous, or you can tap in online.
One comment now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
All I would say, and I appreciate the debate, you guys, fantastic, on the consultation for the beach park. My thinking would be to have your say would be advantageous to come after the public hearing, because that's when everyone's gonna get all the information. Where there's a bit of a brainstorm that's gonna happen, everything's gonna be fresh in their minds, and then if the have your say is kind of people's final sort of vision or what they'd like to see, then it'll be most informed if it comes after the fact rather than before. Because if you go before, I'm just gonna go based on what I know
Yeah.
now, which isn't everything, so.
That's a good point.
That's an information.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we were talking about publishing that after the 15th, so I guess we can, why don't we discuss it?
We'll discuss it in the 15.
Yeah, okay, that's a great comment though. All right, we're gonna move into the close.
Do we have anybody online who wants to comment?
Sure, everybody knows.
David Shore.
All right, put his thumb up.
Somebody, Carmen.
I think Carmen's still on.
Yeah, if I could say something, I hear Peter and Norm. It sounds like there is great concern without having a municipal coordinator. Being in a leadership role, I can understand some of the concerns that I'm hearing sort of from the one side of the table. So again, just back to about the hiring freeze, I have to just resonate sort of what I hear from that side of council too, is that you really have to think about that, because normally it is not, like, I think, Peter, you said it well, where you basically stated at the time that hiring freeze was talked about in some of the campaigns, you had a full slate of staff, now you don't. So I think that you guys have a lot more on your plate all of a sudden. So I think that consideration, what I'm hearing from Peter and Norm, it definitely should be thought about. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Peter? Any other questions online? Before we go into a closed meeting? No, okay. Anybody, that will go into a closed meeting. Thank you very much for coming out, and we will come back and report out of this afterwards if anyone is still around or wants to go online. Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
No, good.
Okay, welcome back. I'd like to report that we had our closed session. The proposed topics for discussion in absence of the public was the office staffing. Additional information is required. The item has been deferred to November 15th. So that item is complete, and we'll move to public participation. If there's any questions from the gallery.
Two online.
Two.
Yeah, I think.
They may not be at their computers, so.
Yeah.
Forgotten to log off.
Okay, we know this has gone on a little bit into the evening for some of you, so if you're listening right now and you have any questions, we'll give you about 30 seconds, and then if we don't hear from you, we'll close off the meeting.
Oh, yeah. A brave soul.
Okay.
Rules, protocols.
All right, I think that's sufficient time. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, second. All in favor?
You-
Oh, sorry. Okay.